Hey, what's up, guys? Little man with a big opinion here. Today's video is another discussion, and I think it's one that a lot of preppers need to hear. I think it's one that everyone out there could deal with hearing. So, that being said, share the video with your friends and family. Like the video, leave your comments down below, whether they're questions or things that you want to add on to this, and subscribe to the channel. Being a history teacher, there's definitely parts of history I enjoy teaching, and then there's parts that we just get through. But, the stuff that I enjoy, and I think a lot of history teachers enjoy, is talking about the battles that, set the future up for what we're in now. And I just got done watching a very great video, and I'm going to give them all the credit that I can. The channel's Life in 3D. It's called The Last Goodbye, a World War II tribute. And in U.S. history, we're talking about World War II. We're getting close to talking about World War I for world history, so getting ready for the World War II. And we even talked about it a little bit in government and economics. But knowing everything that I know about history, that I'm, constantly learning more and more about, it brings up the question that are we, myself, those of you that are watching this, and then just the general public, are we prepared for the next one? And what I mean by that is, there have been conflicts in between World War II and now. One of the longest lasting ones was Vietnam and the global war on terror. Don't do that, cat. And so we really haven't had that, massive worldwide conflict. And there's plenty of videos out there saying, we're due for the next one. Between the American Revolution and the American Civil War, it was roughly 75 years. Between the American Civil War and World War I, you've got another roughly 75 years. Wasn't quite that long of a period between 1 and 2, but we're pushing 80 something years since World War II, and all the different talking points say we're due for another one, and you kind of want to wonder, history, will tell the tale, but we could be in what is the start of the next World War. Japan was doing their thing in the early 30s, and some people say World War II started when they declared war on China in 37. Other people say it started when Germany occupied Czechoslovakia. A lot of the general history says it started September 1 of 39 when they invaded Poland, and France and Britain declared war, a couple of days later. For Americans, they might feel like World War II started December 7th, 41. So, you can look towards what's going on in Israel with Gaza, Hezbollah, Lebanon, that whole region. Several other countries are involved in that, just not with, physical troops fighting. You can look at what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. You can look at what China's doing with its posturing with Taiwan. And, you can look at the major political shifts happening in Latin America and Europe and, even the US. A lot of people really feel like something could happen based off of the results of this election. Um, a lot of conflicts really get started with less than half of the country wanting to be involved. Some of the numbers you look at with the American Revolution, 25% of them, really did the, rebelling part. Another percentage tagged along, and another one fought against them. Germany, under Adolf Hitler, came into power with about 27% of, the country's government, and they were able to, they didn't collaborate with any of the other parties, and, to appease all the different people, they went ahead and made him chancellor, and so it doesn't take a lot to set things off. It doesn't take, big country A and big country B, starting swinging the blows. It can start small scale and escalate to other areas, and the sides are picked afterwards. Uh, at one point, Germany and Russia seemed like they weren't going to attack each other at all. They carved up Poland on their own. The things that really get glanced over in the history stuff is, and I really think it's just now, in the last 10, 15 years, becoming more and more apparent, is everything that happened on the home front side. Not just with like military members, doing stuff on the home front, but also, the military jobs, but then also, how the lives continued in the middle of a war. And, not just hearing about the US, where we had a handful of cases where our shores got struck from a occasional, air balloon from Japan, or, I think there was only 2 different times a U-boat fired on American shores. Uh, but also hearing what went on in Europe on the Allied side and the Axis side. And I don't think a lot of people are ready for a situation like that. I think the last time we, were really ready for something like that was in the middle of the Cold War, when JFK told American citizens that they should construct backyard bomb shelters in case of a nuclear attack. And there were tens of millions of homes that built varying levels of structures. There were contractors building new homes saying, your den doubles as your den, but also your bomb shelter, because we constructed all the walls out of concrete and rebar. There's the thought of the victory gardens to try to, alleviate what the American farmers are putting in the civilian market, and instead, send that to the military. There was widespread rationing. We were going through great-grandparents' stuff, and we still have a couple of those rationing books where, you were able to get 3 pounds of meat in a week, and half a pound of sugar, and this many eggs, and this much chocolate, and this much gas. And I think the U.S. as a society is not prepared. I don't think they're capable of making those same kind of sacrifices unless it is, extremely forced upon them. I also don't think the American people are also really, capable and willing to put in the effort, you know, for a large scale total war scenario. You're saying I have to do extra work to grow my food when I'm used to making a paycheck and going to the grocery store. You're saying I can't buy whatever I want because we're cutting back on pastries so that we can use that wheat for, you know, more standard foods, and we're cutting out a lot of the extras. Now, don't get me wrong, there are things that are going to still keep moving. You know, they still played movies in the middle of the war. Entertainment stuff still happens in the middle of the war because, you know, things might suck, but we still want to keep morale up. How many people are going to volunteer versus, how many people are going to, you know, not want to participate in the draft. Saying that, there's also a large number of people that aren't even eligible. I just recently, I think it's been 3 years since I've been part of the draft. I think it stops at 25, so 2.5 years. But I'm diabetic, unless it gets really, really desperate or they come up with, some sort of way to, null and void that, I don't have to worry. Uh, I and the way times have changed, it's a lot harder to try to get around those issues if, you're really gunning to get in. There's plenty of stories of Americans signing up at 15 and 16 and, forging documents so that they can go participate. So most of the people that worry about a draft don't have a lot to worry about because they're not going to take you unless it gets really, really desperate. I'll throw a Hearts of Iron reference in. If we get to the point where we're scraping the bottom of the barrel, that means 25% of your population is, part of the military, but I don't think it'll get that worse. But we also haven't had a major conflict on American soil since the War of 1812, like mainland U.S. We've had, the closest thing to that would be Pearl Harbor, but like continental U.S. So, it might be different in this go around. There's dozens of games that kind of give you a glimpse of what this might look like, and a lot of it's fiction, and in 99% of them the US always comes out on top. I think the worst scenario would be like the 80s Red Dawn where half the US gets invaded. But that is something to think about. And for those of you that have kind of thought through this process, you're the ones that are most likely watching this video and watching the other videos because you want to get as much information as you can. You want to be the best informed in your decision making. It's not just I've got the high speed rifle and a plate carrier and a helmet. There's dozens of other areas of logistics that needs to be worried about. We've seen some of those issues just with natural disasters and, the response time, you know, getting boots on the ground is fairly quickly, but, you know, it's not exactly what a lot of us would think is the most efficient and all encompassing response. And it's very difficult in today's economy, whether you're trying to do this prepping at an individual level, a group level, a state level, a federal level, uh, especially when we're spending more than we're making. The U.S. has the largest military budget in the world, but if a full scale conflict happened tomorrow, we've got a lot of assets. We can engage very quickly and, do a lot of the stuff that we need to do. But just like World War II, there's going to be a ramping up period. If, right now our military is about 1 million with 600,000 to 800,000 in reserve and, a few 100,000 more in the National Guard. But there's at least a 4 to 6 month period of increasing its size. And do we have enough in the logistics to increase it 400,000 at a time every 4 to 6 months? Do we have enough pieces to, World War II, we were in the 5 to 6 million mark, and we did some ramping up in the late 30s, but from being attacked in the end of 41 to really getting involved, there was almost a full year period of not just training new people, but getting them uniforms, getting them the tools and the different weapons and vehicles and all this other stuff. And that stuff's going to take a lot of time to kick into high gear. So a lot of it as a prepper, you really want to have most of it before that thing happens, because the prices are going to shoot up on any of that stuff. The availability is going to go down the drain, because if you're spending $200 a month on prepping stuff and only 5% of people are doing that, we enter some sort of major issue, and a lot of the prepping stuff is going to go off the market and go, whether it's to our military or our allies' militaries. And now you've got, even if it's 10% of the people are now spending that $200 a month trying to catch up, you've doubled the demand just on the civilian side, and the supply isn't going to double at the same time that the demand does. So that's a really big reason we do all this prepping beforehand. That way you're not stuck in the panic buying where everyone's trying to all get the same stuff and there's no stuff to get. So the mindset, I really don't think is there for a lot of Americans. I think I don't remember what economy group said it, but most people don't have $1,000 saved for a problem. Right now I don't, because I had spent $500 on tires 2 weeks ago, and we've got to build that back up. And you're wanting to build that safety net back up and continue to buy the prepping stuff that you need, and it's a budgeting balance. So the last thing I'll say is you need to continue to pay attention to the information that's being provided. You need to continue to purchase your preps. Anything that you buy is going to help you, whether it's that 50 round box of 22 shells that are $3, or that 1 pound bag of lentils Like I picked up 2 of these bags the other day, spent a couple of dollars, and I didn't even look at the calories involved in it. There's 1,300 calories in each of these bags. So, from a calorie standpoint, that couple of dollars is like an emergency amount of food for 2 people for a day. Or that's a working amount of calories for one person for the day. That $3 or $4 spent, slowly ticks up that amount that you have put away for the rainy day. Start with 2 weeks, go for a month, go for 3 months, 6 months, a year. Once you hit a year, you can kind of pause and reassess and, maybe divert what you're putting into one category into another so you can, stay fully balanced and rounded out. Spend your time training. Spend your time learning new skills. Like, I thought it was really nice. The tourniquet I bought came with this laminated card that, talks about bleeding. A venous bleed is a steady flow, darker red color. A arterial bleed is spurting, bright red, more critical. It gives treatment steps. It tells you when direct pressure might not be practical. And on the back, it shows the major areas for bleed control. It tells you where a tourniquet should go. It tells you where you should put a chest seal, compression gauze, emergency bandage, and a hemostatic bandage. And I really like this motto down here in the bottom because it's the same motto for scouting. And I don't like the glare. It's showing you what I got pulled up on YouTube. But it says, be prepared. So that's one of those things that, you might know that skill. You know where to apply a tourniquet. You know where to apply your gauze and your chest seals. But I'm going to hold on to that because other people that I get involved in prepping might not know that. That's a visual aid with a description that can help out. It's kind of like using the EDGE method in scouting. Explain, demonstrate, guide, and then enable. And so, every day you can better yourself. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. The other one you can say is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You're never really going to hit 100% in prepping. But I'd rather be at 20% than 0%. I'd rather hit 10% and know that every 3 or 4 months I'm going up 0.5%. Because the higher that percentage goes when it comes to supplies, training, tools and equipment, the better you're going to be able to weather the problems. And if you can weather the problems better, you can help other people weather the problems better, and you can come out on the other end on top. So I'll wrap it up here. Like the video if you enjoy the content. Leave your questions down below in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel and share this video with your friends and family. And with that, catch you in the next one.